Welcome to A New Work Order, a podcast that's diving into innovative career strategies, alternative paths that challenge the norms. We're going down the career road less traveled and exploring what it really means to have a portfolio career. What does that look like? And where does sweat equity fit into the shape of careers of the future? I'm Graham Goulden.
And I'm Michaela Shaw.
And today, Mick, we are going to be looking at the future of work, predictions, and preparing for what's next, which sounds like a pretty broad topic. Today, we're really going to be looking at how work is evolving, the role of technology and how to prepare for the future. We've heard a lot of people talking about the impacts of generative AI on the creative industries, but when you start to consider software engineering and right the way through to kind of more manual tasks, where can AI fit? So that's where we're going to start. And we're really going to look at, first of all, workforce, shifts in work culture, the kind of post-COVID generation who are very, very much used to remote and hybrid working. What are the pitfalls? What are the perils there? Personally, it feels like I've had some good experience recently in this space, trying to work with a distributed team across the planet. I feel like this is becoming increasingly normal, whether it's on the SweatLink side for me or whether it's been other projects that I've kind of picked. I miss the human interaction. And I don't know about you, but it feels like there's a bit of a pull to get people back into the office, rightly or for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. It feels like we are kind of moving back to a 9 to 5 and a 5 days a week in an office. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, I think that I'm here in Canada, you're in the UK, and it was great when I was in Manchester at Christmas in December and being able to be in an office and meet people. However, yeah, I'm seeing this very strange shift, kind of like against data, against what we found out to be, which is people are pretty productive when they're working from home, and almost like this sort of, is it like a nanny state? It's like we need to watch what you're doing, if you're being productive or not. So I can see that sort of back. I suspect it's complex. Companies being pressured by government or councils to bring people back into city centres. I feel like you were doing this portfolio career before it was called a portfolio career, like before it became cool or trendy or whatever.
It's a great question. It's just day by day, isn't it, really? And then suddenly I realized in May it'll be 20 years that I've been working, which is actually terrifying. But I think I started out during the pre-COVID, pre-financial crash of 2007, 2008. And we were 100% in the office, and it was great. London was booming. We made some great products in a great environment, some great people. And I started from there. But when I moved back to Manchester during the relocation to Salford, I realized that the product management community in Manchester wasn't as strong as it was in London. So I started to explore bringing Product Tank to Manchester, which turned out to be a great move and really helped kick product management as a discipline off in the city. Absolutely booming back in 2011, 2012. And I found I was able to give some words of wisdom based on the previous experience I'd had in London. And from there, I started to spend time hanging out with various different startups and running a community on the side. There were elements on the side that would make up a portfolio career. And then it just snowballed from there. And I've always been plugged into what's going on in the tech space in Manchester. And just continue the conversations, really. And, where are we now? Like 14 years later, still based in Manchester and still very much talking and trying to support people, trying to do weird and wonderful things. So it happened by accident, from being able to hang out with interesting people doing interesting things, and the rest is history. But yeah, I think you could try to do it. You could intentionally do it now. We know what the portfolio career is. We know that you can blend a full-time job with some bits on the side, or you could decide, okay, I'm going to do some freelance work or some consulting for 3 days a week, and then you can assist on a sweat equity basis with 1, 2 opportunities, and then you've got side gigs aplenty, and you can actually make that decision now. Whereas back then, success was measured by the final salary that you took home from your one employer.
Yeah, and we've been talking in previous episodes about maybe why freelancers and consultants, this traditional 9 to 5, designing your own, thing can fit your own lifestyle, your passions, and also what it is that you want.
Absolutely.
Talked about the reason. I suspect that reasons there are people. A lot of it is also driven by the fact that so-called companies who have said we're a family. As soon as things get tight, I think it was like 1 or 2 episodes ago, redundant. You're not so much family.
Just personally speaking, I think it's possible to defend against some of those types of issues by actively spending time considering what your portfolio career might look like. So it's possible to roll off a slightly toxic project. I think it's a great example of resiliency, building in some resiliency where something's not quite right. You need to change it. You've got these other items lined up so that if the day job or one of these projects isn't quite working out, don't stress it. Leave. You just get to lean into the next opportunity, maybe a little harder than you have been, because time and headspace allow it.
And we were talking also about these shifts in, hybrid working, remote working. We were talking about like skills-based hiring as opposed to like I have a 25-year-old son who's working as a data analyst. One of the things he realized was that people his age who had chosen to do apprenticeship not only had real world experience, were like leagues ahead in terms of when they owned a car, where they lived, and they certainly didn't have the huge. So I think that's worth looking at, that sort of change and that shift. The soft skills are. You talk about, I think you were talking about June,
100%.
but what are the soft skills do you think that you have had or witnessed is really important when you're building a career path?
I think agility and adaptability definitely spring to mind immediately. You do need to be able to context switch quite quickly because going from one project in a completely different space to recording this podcast within the space of 20 minutes, 15 minutes. It's a nice example of just being able to quickly adapt to a really changing landscape. And that's just on the kind of micro level. On the more macro level, you've got to be able to identify trends. You've got to be able to keep your skills fresh, but you've got to be able to communicate very, very effectively in a completely different setup to what you may have been operating in 20 minutes earlier. So I think that the problem solving element, the creative element, and I think one of the most fundamental element is the ability to listen and to actually hear what's going on around you. It will equip you with so much more knowledge than just feeling like I need to be heard straight away in every call, in every meeting, in every project that I'm currently part of. Just chill, just listen, just hear what other people are saying around you. I think that's a massively underappreciated skill at the moment. Changes in the tech landscape where it's all about who is shouting the loudest. No one's listening. We've lost the ability to have those kind of moderate conversations. There's an entire different podcast.
I'm listening because I think you're absolutely right about how underestimated and undervalued. So I'm really glad that you feel I think AI moving into and coming out. And so I'm thinking about shifting slightly and looking at how this impacts, how AI is impacting our careers. Like if somebody asked me that, I'd be like, everything is a rise in jobs for people in care professions. Those people still need deliveries, they need nurses, they need carers. Like how is how is the impact of technology going to be affecting our working lives, I suppose?
Well, it feels like it's touching everything about it. There's this huge, huge shift with AI. But I think I was reading about the evolving workplace dynamics in the Times earlier this month, where there was a prediction that chief AI officers start to become more and more, visible in roles. And when you start to have that coupled with UK government's investment in a minister for AI, this is going to creep into every element of life. It's not just designers who feel threatened by generative AI, or software engineers whose roles could be replaced, but potentially. It's creeping into the workplace. A video flying around LinkedIn this week of two AI chatbots talking to each other, booking a hotel room. So you've got this AI assistant who calls up a hotel who is using a chatbot to take reservations, and they automatically recognize that they are both AI, and they switch to a higher state of communication to make that as efficient as possible. You can expand that really easily to a lot of roles, like admin within an office, making bookings, travel bookings, travel agents, estate agents. It's starting to creep in. Can an AI engine make recommendations to me for a new house? And then can it sort out all of the bookings and the follow-up feedback? You start to see how it could be creeping in everywhere. So how do we defend against that? And I think that having that portfolio approach where you get to experiment with different implementations of AI, because someone's got to build these things, someone's got to put platforms together. Can you actually hedge your bets? Sweat equity platforms like will be great for keeping an eye out for those types of emerging roles as they become more and more prevalent.
I mean, it is. And I think while people are right to feel nervous about the impact just could but will impact our lives, I also think that we can't bury our heads in the sand. It's kind of like I hear a lot of people talk about how they don't have time to do the more creative parts of their job, or they don't have time to enjoy their weekend because they're busy sorting out, scheduling or something. I mean, maybe there are things that automate. And maybe we should be thinking about who's going to be creating it, and how are are we going to pay the people that are putting data in fairly? Are we going to ensure that if we're going to use work, the people whose work it is are getting royalties? That's what I'm really concerned about, because AI is here to stay. And I would just like to see a capital A and a little I. A scary thing. I'm more scared of the people you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it should be a tool for good, but it feels like there's a track record to be concerned about.
And I shouldn't go blindly into it, but at the same time, in terms of keeping ourselves relevant and being able to, because it's often the people that are doing stuff for good that then remove themselves from a technology, and then as soon as you're relieved from that, you don't get impact. Stay informed. Don't be scared of learning about.
It doesn't have to be Skynet, does it? The beginning of the end. These could be genuine tools that assist. They can act as co-pilots, and they can try to make efficiencies. Repetitive tasks, putting user stories together, for instance, could be massively streamlined using AI. It just can't. That's the reality of it. You always have to review the output to make sure it's where you need it to be. But from an optimization perspective or an efficiency perspective, there are wins. Similarly, for software engineers, you can just ask solutions to problems that would normally take you ages and probably involve a number of different humans. You've got the solution at your fingertips. So I do see that there's huge wins. So it's about keeping yourself relevant and not being afraid to lean into the technology. I think a lot of the potential pushback is coming because it's happening so quickly. But I genuinely think that the portfolio approach, the sweat equity approach, lets you dabble in these different areas and lets you build out your CV. You don't have much AI experience, like literally working with it. So if I was going into a product management role in the AI space, or where AI exposure is a requirement of that role, one of the easiest ways for me to get that experience is to have a hunt for some startup opportunity on SweatClink where AI is part of the business. It's going to cost me nothing. They need some help. It's a win-win, and I get to carry forward that industry experience because you're working in that space. Just because it's a sweat equity, less worthy of attention on CV.
No, and actually in the past, like when I was just starting working, in between every job I start with doing volunteer work in the sector that I want to work in. It works every time because you get to, first of all, see what that particular company or organization is like. They get to see you being able to share what you do have and also learn at the same time. And I've been very pleasantly surprised by the number of people who are answering our calls for equity partnerships on the platform and beyond. And these are people who are just looking for co-founding on advisory roles, when you typically see in the sweat equity, and these are professionals would be looking at having a side hustle or a side gig or whatever. This is a way of using my free time to invest in startups. And that's a really interesting shift. People become more aware. It's showing that people are more are seeing their time as a kind of valuable asset. Which
100%. And I think FT reporting on a resurgence in consulting demand. Industry more broadly is crying out for folks with expertise and experience in the AI, data, cloud services, and just tech in general. And that's a time-based service, isn't it? Consulting, you come in and you solve problems, you give advice, you steer people in the right direction, which is exactly what we're trying to do on the SweatClink side, but making it more accessible to both startups and the talent that is looking for that experience. So in terms of keeping yourself relevant, dabbling in different spaces, the sweat equity part of a portfolio career feels like it's not just helpful for you as an individual in the short term, but longer term, you're actually future-proofing yourself.
absolutely. And I think you have £10 and you put it in the bank and you get whatever interest might come out of it. You're not going to get anything else. But if you invest your time you believe in or you feel passionate about or excites you, there's just so much that you're getting out of that's very difficult to quantify.
No, 100%. So I think we're going to say it's a no-brainer, but if you're talking about identifying routes to future-proof yourself from the impact of AI and other technologies on the workforce, then dabble, TLDR, isn't it? Just get experience with anything that's coming along and see where it takes you.
Yeah. And it's not, I also feel like that any investment you make, whether it's with your time or with your dollar, is still an investment and is something that you can, lose. And sweat equity is also, there are risks and there are challenges as well. why I'm working for Sweatlink is that it's not just about people together, let's get the right people together, but it's also about like making sure that people understand not just the rewards, but also the risks, and that we empower people themselves to be able to make those informed decisions and be able to get the most out of their opportunities that they're kind of diving into. It's like a place to go where, we're not recruiters. We don't take a bite. We don't have anything to do with the arrangement, but we do with, his say, okay, you're going to do this. This is very exciting. This is great. But these are the things that you need.
Yeah, we absolutely. I mean, a ton of content on the Sweatlink site tries to kind of help assist you and steer you through the process because it can be quite daunting. I mean, there are implications, there are legals to sort, but I think it's only daunting if you've never done it before. And we're there to kind of help steer you through it. And as a bit of a teaser, I know that there's more stuff coming down the pipe on the site to try to make that journey a little bit more seamless. But I think people are going to have to sit tight and wait. There's a nice tease for bringing people back to the site in the future. But it's absolutely, but it's so true. It is a bit of a risk. Well, it can be seen as a bit of a risk. And as long as you go in informed, that's what you can really do. And like you say, we are we do the introductions, and then it's kind of up to you and the kind of the startup to communicate. We can just advise with some content and some help in the form of blog posts, articles, tooltips, suggestions, but ultimately it's a grown-up relationship, isn't it, between the two parties?
Absolutely.
So, yes, I feel like we could go on for hours on the topics that we've covered here, especially on some of those big cultural shifts in technology. That is a particular topic that might spawn a separate rant podcast. But it's precisely that. I think for today, we're out of time, sadly, and we have to wrap up. But there's going to be a ton more developments on the Sweatlink site. Keep an eye out for more content. If you're thinking about moving into the portfolio career lane, or just interested in what sweat equity might bring to your setup, it's up sweatlink.com.
Yes. And, we would love to hear all about your experiences. If there's anything that we've talked about today that you think that you would like to add to, share, put us right. We want to hear what you have to say. And so please check out the links and email us, or you can hit us up on our socials. But do get in touch. We want to hear what you have to say.
I can't wait to see what comes in on the back of this. I suspect that there's a lot of opinion floating around in this space. Okay, well, that's it from us. We will wrap up, and I think that brings us to the end of this first season of A New Work Order. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you in season 2. There's a rod for our own backs right there.
Asking for trouble. Thank you so much for listening.